All right, hello everyone. Welcome back to Unidos Unplugged, the podcast where community culture and wellness take the spotlight. I'm your host, David Villarreal, Unidos contra la Diabetes Outreach Specialist. I'm joined by my co-host, Mr. Moises Arjona, our director.
Hello.
And our very special guest today, Miss Leanna Gutierrez with NAMI of South Texas RGV.
Hi there.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us today, Miss Leanna. And if you want to just introduce yourself, tell people a little bit about NAMI, what it really is, and why you're here today.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So my name is Leanna Gutierrez, and I am the communications coordinator for NAMI South Texas RGV. So NAMI stands for National Alliance on Mental Illness. There's NAMI National, and then we're sponsored by NAMI Texas, and we are the newest affiliate here in the Rio Grande Valley. So basically, NAMI is the biggest grassroots mental health organization. So it is a nonprofit. And so when we started this affiliate, we really, saw the gap that there was in the RGV regarding support and peer support, for anybody, kind of experiencing a mental health journey or mental health condition. And we saw a lack of support for family members. So, we got our leadership team together, and we had our steering committee and everything like that. So we formed, and we're a Model B under NAMI Texas. And what we do is we offer advocacy, we offer education, and we offer free confidential support groups for those who may have a mental health experience. So those mental health groups are, peer-to-peer. Anybody with a lived experience is, offering support to somebody with a condition. And then we also have family support. So we offer support to family members who may be journeying through that type of mental health condition with a family member, be it a son, a brother, a husband, a spouse. Yeah. So we build these support groups. It's open to anybody over 18. Right now, we see the need for that type of support group, and that's how we came about, and that's what we've been offering, I think, for the past year now.
Cool. I really love the way you say it, journey.
Journey,
We're on
yeah.
this journey, 'cause I think we have to, our culture needs to really go ahead and rechange the way and evaluate the way we look at mental health.
Yeah. I mean, it's important, our language and how we refer to these struggles or barriers that we may go through. Life is life, you know what I mean? We all go through stuff, and everybody who is on the team or leading the support groups also have a lived experience. So myself as a peer support or like a family member, I am the family member of somebody journeying, and I also am somebody who has a lived experience with mental health. So, language is super important, especially when we're talking about these like stigmatized topics and stuff like that.
Right, it's really stigmatized. You were talking beforehand,
Super.
we can't really talk about this type of stuff. And,
Oh, yeah.
We always see there's a lot of memes about, talking to your parents about having a mental illness. The mom gets a chancla right away. Not
chiflao.
chiflao.
Yes,
We
yes,
can't talk
yes.
about this stuff. And we had to change that because we're not all built the same way, unfortunately,
Not
right?
at all, exactly. Yeah, culture is a huge thing. I guess in the Hispanic RGV, getting the word out there that it's not chiflazon, it's not something that they're doing on purpose. It's not something, it's something that's biologically caused, you know what I mean? Our makeup, and it's anything like a medical condition, you know what I mean? We need to treat mental health and mental wellness exactly like we would something like a medical diagnosis. So language, culture, breaking down those barriers is super important. So that's what we try to do with all of our support groups. You know what I mean? We really try to offer that.
Yeah, and I think for me, one of those things that it's going to be a therapy session for Moses again.
Oh, nice.
One of those things is and it's been really hitting hard lately, is one of those things where I need to be a listener. I don't need to give solutions to a problem. You're coming, if a friend or someone's sharing, listen. Don't offer your opinion. Don't offer anything unless it's asked, which is something that I think a lot of us try to do, right? You know what? Let me take care of it.
Yes.
No. Desahógate.
Yes.
How can I listen to you and be an active listener without looking at finding solutions for you? Because sometimes you're not looking for solutions. You just need someone to talk to.
Exactly. Yeah, there's things that are left unsaid because, you don't have that open space. You don't have that safe space to talk to somebody about, And that's what we're here, our free confidential support groups. I can't say that we even have a script. We have, rules, guidelines that we lead the group in. But other than that, it's like, how are you doing today? Like, how did you do this month? What's something that's on your heart like this week? what did you struggle with? And we talk about everything, from seeing the right, correct mental health professional. Have you gotten into counseling? Hey, I haven't been able to fill this medication because, so on and so forth, insurance coverage, or, so it really just is a span, across everything, that you may encounter, mental health. But yeah, being a good listener is always key.
Right.
And we go in there not as the experts, but with somebody who has a lived experience. We're not like professionals presenting. We're not professionals trying to solve a problem. We're there for like support, So we exchange and, hey, my son is going through this, or hey, like my uncle went through the same thing, and this and this and this helped him, or try to look for this organization or this doctor, stuff like that. So it really is like supportive, venting, getting it off your chest, because people are not alone anymore.
Yeah.
And we're realizing that because mental health affects almost every single person, in some way, shape, or form. So yeah, it's really positive to be that listening, empathetic person.
It is. It is. And so I picked up. Everyone gives me journaling books because journaling is a pretty big thing, right?
Yes.
And recently I started journaling, and one of my friends goes, we were at Starbucks, and she's like, "Hey, that's a really nice book. Can I see it?" I said, "No."
Absolutely not.
She's like, "Why not?" I go, "Because you're gonna freak out once you start reading all my deep thoughts in there." But it really does help you to do that. And again, you mentioned, support groups and stuff. I don't see myself as a support group type of person. I would see myself more as a one-on-one.
Yeah.
But the journaling has really helped me put those thoughts in my head into
for
paper,
sure.
and actually I feel relaxed afterwards. Right?
Yeah,
So,
getting it off your chest, writing something like a journal is really cathartic, like it's something, you may go through, process different emotions and stuff like that as you journal. But yeah, some people we understand are not peer support group people. We are seeing a big veteran population, and they're not with the support group. We try to change, not change the wording, but make it more like inclusive or open and stuff like that. We call it like a wellness support circle. Right. So there's different ways that, we can kind of offer that support. But yeah, just some people don't like to be in a group, and some of them are one-to-one or processing by themselves and stuff like that. And we understand that.
yeah, and it's really hard. I think I've worked with the veteran population very little, but I am not a veteran, and you're right away you're not one of the team, right? And I get it. I can never compare myself with what they've gone through and their shared life experiences. I don't have that.
For sure.
And I understand some of their struggles and fears too, right? Sometimes you just need to be with those folks that understand where you're coming from, that can relate to you. And that's why having that shared lived experience is key.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, we always say we're by the people, for the people.
Exactly.
And we are definitely seeing...
Are you voting for office right now? Are you running for
No,
office?
absolutely not. No.
I am for the people, with the people.
No, that's like our kind of like internal like tagline,
Yeah,
with our leadership team. I was like, hey, we are the people and we're for the people,
Did I say
meaning
that
that
too, by the way?
we're like two peas in a pod. I like
Yeah.
it. So yeah, we always try to say, like we have a lived experience, but going back to the veteran population, I am a veteran wife. So even like that, like my lived experience is different.
Right.
I am not a veteran, obviously, but the struggles that a veteran family goes through, you know what I mean, or things like that, is very specific. So they wanted to speak to somebody who has that very specific experience, and with all due respect as well, you know what I mean. That's important for them, and so we are trying to, advocate for more like veteran support groups or veteran family support groups. And NAMI does actually have a specialized program called NAMI. Frontline. There we go. So what they do is they have a training through like NAMI Texas or NAMI National, and it's via Zoom. So I was going through this training, support group online. It was 6 sessions, like twice a week, and the leader was from Fredericksburg, Texas. So we all met. We had some veterans, and then also veterans' families. And NAMI, NAMI offers this, and a lot of people don't know. You can hop on a Zoom, you can hop on a class, and you can be literally in a group with your peers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like family, like-minded people who are going through the same experience. And NAMI has a lot of special programming like that, which we're very lucky to be able to tap into. And it's very accessible. It's online. NAMI National and NAMI Texas. So, but yeah, they have NAMI Frontline. It's very, very interesting.
Well, I think that's one of the things that I think we need. That part of our podcast is to get all the organizations in the Rio Grande Valley and in Texas that work in the Rio Grande Valley share their experience. What is it that you're doing? People don't always know what's going on in the valley, and we stay in our silos, no es por nada, but we do tend to fixate on only one thing that we're working on. And as we were talking beforehand, while a lot of folks sometimes don't want to partner with UCD because we do diabetes affects everyone. Everybody gets affected by diabetes.
Yeah.
And if you're not on that journey now, we hope that you are preventing and you don't get to that stage, because a lot of folks see diabetes as a death sentence anyway, and that's not the case. It's curable, it's reversible, it's all. There's so much that goes on, right? But we don't talk about it enough, right? So I'm glad you came and talked to us and telling us all the great things that you all have that are available, because our community needs to know those resources.
Exactly. Yeah. And specifically, I know that, you talk about medical, and you talk about what the needs are and stuff like that. So the next support group is actually at the senior center on Crossroads. So it's kind of like a fall type of thing. And there is a senior center that's attached to like the WellMed office and stuff like that. But we want people to, come and experience the support group, because as living with diabetes or battling diabetes, you can have some sort of depression, you can have some sort of anxiety. A lot of people have that, medical anxiety. A lot of people are like, what's going to happen? What's next? Or they don't know what to expect if they're not properly educated. And the same thing, being depressed with those medical diagnoses, having to go to the doctor, having to go to different specialists, So, and I encountered with my parents. They're retired. My dad is diabetic, and my mom, has gone through like a cancer journey. Thank God she's in remission. But, she'll call me and she'll, be tearful and stuff like that. And she's like, I'm tired. I'm tired of the testing. I'm tired of the doctor's appointments. I'm tired. And she's, she's independent. She's able to drive herself. She's very, very healthy in that sense of the word. But that medical journey really does weigh on people. You know what I mean? Especially persons who are living with diabetes. It's hard. You have your PCP, you have your cardiologist, you have your urologist, you have your nephrologist. And you got to get your feet checked, with the podiatrist and stuff like that. And like, are you getting a nutritionist? Are you getting the right nutrition and stuff like that? So that depression weighs heavy, in our population, because if they are faced with a diagnosis of diabetes or something like that, there's a lot of co-occurring things that come, and they really get down. We see that in our older population. They're isolated. So man, mental health is really a big part of that. And I think that we're getting closer to like our physicians including that in that wellness physical, hey, how's your mental health? How have you been? They're doing like a depression scale, and they're doing like an anxiety scale and stuff like that, because I think that they're learning, that mental wellness is a part of the person's overall wellness too. So
yeah, it's really, I think getting the whole family involved is really key when we're doing this type of work, right? Because it has to have the whole family unit has to be in it together. You can't just focus on one part of it, right? Because then if you're only focusing on one person and not the rest of the family unit, then you have a whole bigger problem. No one's knowing your struggles too, right? So when we talk about diabetes and some of the things you were mentioning right now, right away when we talk about diets, people freak out. I can't have this, but you really can live a really happy, successful, enjoyable life eating the right foods. It's it's just changing it up a little bit, not leaving everything out. And I think something we all have to focus on sometimes that we don't focus enough.
Yeah, like alternatives, or looking for something that works for you that's like a healthy alternative. And man, like just seeing, how many like diets and alternatives, I would have never thought to eat cauliflower rice. I'm like, what? Like, I was like, what do you mean? This is like a thing, and you can like season it like you want to, and it's just like a healthy alternative. I mean, don't tell my husband that, because my husband loves like his pizza, and I'm like, sir, how can we make this healthy? And I'm like, well, there's cauliflower crust, like let's go. So but it's just making those modifications a little bit at a time that will help somebody.
Yeah, and thanks for sharing about your mommy, because it's one of those things where it's really hard. Also, because I've had some friends who are going through those journeys too, right? And they're tired of going through all the checkups, and it's not that. It'd be cool if you could get one appointment and have everybody. It would be the perfect world, right?
The one-stop shop.
But there really isn't that stop shop all the time, right? And what happens is you go for your appointment, you spend there a while, then you go, and then another day you have to go to another appointment, and then your whole life is gone in appointments. So I get it. It can be very frustrating, and sometimes people want to just give up on their journey, right? And we don't want that. We all have family. We loved ones, and we want to be there supportive. And it's one of those things that's really, really hard.
I kid you not. So she was going for a bone marrow biopsy. hospital, unnamed. And for whatever the reason is, it was outpatient. So I was there with her, and, I kind of sometimes get the lingo, and I want to be her advocate and stuff like that. I kid you not, we waited 8 hours in the outpatient. Like, she was in a gurney, like in a gown already, and the procedure took 30 minutes.
Wow.
8 hours. I'm like, I'm glad I took the day off for
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
But I'll always be there for my mama. But, I mean, that's how frustrating it is. She hadn't eaten because she had to be fasting. So, I mean, it's like one of those things that I'm like, are you serious? And my mom is like, she's mobile, she's still healthy. She's able to get around. She's pretty independent and stuff like that. Can you imagine somebody who's not?
Who's not? Yeah.
Or alone? I'm like, man, like, and that's just one of the barriers of our healthcare system. But, thankfully, I said, Mom, we're thankful that you got the test done. Thankful that you have insurance coverage. Thankfully that your co-payment wasn't
glass half full.
Exactly. I said, we're blessed. I said, we're blessed, and we have to keep that outlook and stuff like that. So, yeah.
I had a question.
Sure.
So, with a lot more light being brought in these last couple years to mental health awareness, mental illness, this is just coming from my perspective.
Of course.
I still feel like it's a bit of a taboo. Why? And if you agree with me on that sentiment, why? Like, why is that still something that's not a major topic of, like, health?
Lack of education. I think it is lack of education. As much as we try to educate, people will live in that mindset. Like, no, this is something that's created. This is something that is a behavior and not like a medical, type of idea. But it is, lack of education. I still talk to a lot of people, and they're like, what do you mean, like, depression is like this? Or what do you mean, like, a panic attack is like anxiety? And, like, oh, like, I had a brother that would go up and down, up and down. I said, that's called bipolar. You know what I mean? Like, if he had a diagnosis. So it's really just lack of education. So we do, like, a lot of presentations. We do try to advocate in the community. We do, like, a lot of, like, tabling events and stuff like that. But the stigma's there. The stigma's there. And I think huge for, like, the culture is, like, people are going to think I'm loca. People are going to think I'm loca. People are going to think, so it is really like that huge stigma, but it continues to be fought with education. It really is. One person that we can educate through our services, one person that we can educate through our tabling events, through our advocacy, that is one person that's worth it because we remove that stigma, that taboo.
Right.
More people are like, oh, wait, you go to the doctor and like, oh, you're going to counseling? I'm like, yeah, like, we're good. Like, you know what I mean? Like, this is a safe space. Like, I try to be as transparent and relatable as possible with my own journey and stuff like that. So they're like, oh, wow. And they're like, and you're a professional? I'm like, yeah, like, we're good. Like, I try to, like, bring that comforting,
Right.
Like, you're not going to be ostracized by me or
Right.
our team. And it's like, we really do believe in, like, talking and making people comfortable with, what they're going through and accepting of that, not like shying away from it. So,
Yeah, it's really hard because I'm a bully too. So, I can already see myself like, oh yeah, go. But I think it's one of those things where we have to change our culture. We have to change our attitude, and we I mean, I grew up in the 70s and the early 80s and 90s and stuff. So I've seen the evolution of mental health. We don't. Before you don't talk about it. Now we're able to talk about it freely. Now we just need to go ahead and go into the next step, which is accept that there's help for us, and take it, right. And I always say this about I go, how come our Caucasian brothers and sisters have no problem going to therapy, but Latino? Man,
You can't talk about it.
That's actually such a really good point that you brought up, because it's like, like, we've accepted it, but we just don't do anything about it.
I know, right? You're like,
That's
we know
crazy.
it's there. Yeah, like, oh, my uncle's like bipolar. Like, oh, yeah, my dad, has depression and stuff like that. Because before, like, it's like, de esas cosas no platicamos.
Sí,
Like
nada
that,
de
you
eso.
don't air your dirty laundry. You don't take your skeletons out of the closet. And so it's like, whatever happens at home stays at home. And when we function in that way, there's no transparency, like, there's no transparency, there's no, like, freedom either. You're like, you think that you're, like, either living a lie or you're living a secret, and you feel shamed. I'm of the belief that things that come to light cannot be used against you. and they can be addressed, and
Right.
they can, you know, be offered support and stuff like that. So once we start talking about it, once we start like embracing it, like, hey, yeah, I do live with a mental illness. It's managed. You know, I'm in recovery because I'm seeking treatment. You know, I have a doctor, or I go to counseling, I go to therapy and stuff like that. And it's great, you know, when you're able to like embrace something, because once you embrace it, you can freely talk about it, and you can then address it in a healthy way. So instead of making jokes.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, well, even when I talk to people, I'm like, oh, I call it, like, I'm on psychotics. I'm on meds for psychotics, right? I want to just give you the whole
The
extreme.
whole, yeah.
And
Right,
and they're
right.
like, oh, what's wrong with you? I'll go, you're not depressed, are you? Gonna say, no, I have anxiety.
It's different.
It's different because as soon as I say that's the first trigger word that they said was
Yeah.
depression. That's right away they put you in a category.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Are they gonna walk around me with kid gloves on eggshells or whatever? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's,
yeah.
and we don't want that, right?
don't
So
want
no,
that.
so we just say anxiety and
Yeah.
they live with it that way. But going back to the family history and stuff, because David brought that up too, right? So the stuff, we don't talk about it, and then now I have cousins who are saying, hey, I need all your dad's medical history. I need all your mom's medical history. And I'm like, well, why? Well, because all their loved ones have already passed away, and we have all that stuff chronologized in our journey,
Yep.
and they want to know what they're to expect. And I'm like, pues, now we have to talk about it.
Yeah,
This is what we
exactly.
gotta talk about.
That's a really good point. Yeah, like family history and stuff like that. You can see, you can be more aware. You can look for, you know, key signs, you know, like if you have children, or if you have young children, you know, and stuff like that. So you can always see what to look out for and stuff like that. Well, I know I have a family history, you know, of this. So I may have a high likelihood, you know, or my children may have a high likelihood. Let me see. Let me, you know, make sure that they're connected. Let me make sure I'm more observant. Maybe I want to make sure that I have an open conversation with our kids. You know, like with my kids, I do have a 6-year-old son, and he's like super smart. Like he's like, I'm like, what? Where did you learn these things from? I'm like, oh my gosh. And he's like, Mom, it's because I'm GT. I was like, okay, sir. We got it. But he's very observant. Like, he's very observant, you know, and he's also very vocal. He's very articulate with, like, so, like, kids get it. You know what I mean? Kids get it. And if you have that open conversation, you know, on what they're feeling, you know, what they're doing, you know, what they're experiencing, I think it's good to have that healthy conversation and be honest with your kids, too. So, obviously, age-appropriate levels, but it's good to talk about that, you know.
So, I'm sorry, because just so I don't forget, when you said that a lot of people label it as like a behavior, would that be like categorized as like a learned behavior, or?
I mean, it could be like chiflado, you know, chiflado, or like you're acting chiflado, or like you're acting bipolar. Like they think it's like a behavior,
Right.
as opposed to like actually like a set of symptoms and a diagnosis. You know what I mean? Like because behaviors you can mostly control, right? Because you can modify behaviors, but there's something biologically, you know, that you can't control, and you can address it and you can get help for it. You know what I mean? As opposed to behaviors are something that you act out, as opposed to something that's like organically, you know, and research has shown, you know, biologically you may have factors, you know, that predispose you to mental health or mental illness, or so yeah, I mean, people may think that it's a behavior. Oh, you're just acting depressed, like you're just acting you're like acting. I'm like, this is not a show, guys. I promise, if I could choose,
Right.
I mean, I really think that people who are truly, you know, like clinically depressed, I really do not think that they would ever choose to feel that way.
No,
you know?
yeah.
Like not getting out of bed, not taking
Right.
care of your hygiene, not taking care of your family, you know, having, you know, that sadness, crying, you know, not eating or overeating, you know, those are symptoms of like clinical depression. I can guarantee you that somebody would not choose to act that way.
Right.
"Ah, she's just being dramatic. I promise you."
Yeah.
People with, you know, a true mental health journey would not choose that.
The only reason why I asked the question was because I was at an event last week or 2 weeks ago, and I was talking to some of the girls in the office about it. I was it was a college, and so I interacted with a lot of 18, 21, 22-year-olds. And I had a good amount of people come by my table, and as we were talking, they would group up. And for whatever reason, we started talking about just like obviously it's like a diabetes, but then they started talking about like other things, but they were talking about some like mental health issues or disorders or whatever you may call it, and I was telling the girls the way they were talking about them was almost like they were, maybe I was misreading the situation, but it was almost like they were like showing off, like, oh yeah, I have that, or like they were like, oh, you have that, I have this, oh you. I don't know what your thoughts are on it. It was just
generation. Like, what is it? Gen Z?
Yeah.
Are we in Gen Z right now?
And I was just looking at that point. I was just quiet and I was just watching them talk.
Yeah.
And I was like, why are you guys doing that? Like nobody that actually. And again, that's why I was
not used
like,
to it.
that's why I was like, it's I guess it's a good thing that it's out in the open and you guys can talk about it openly. But I was like, people that are going through something like that, like they don't use it as like, oh well, yeah, I have this, and mine's harder than yours, and I'm like,
let me one up you.
Yeah.
No,
So what are your thoughts on it?
So I really think it's like Gen Z right now. I can't keep up with the names, anything like that. But like if you look on TikTok, like there's little like threads or whatever. They're like, if you're happy and shake your meds.
Yeah,
And I'm like,
I never heard that one.
yes. So these are like the Gen, the Gen
crazy.
Zers, I guess, or whatever. And I'm like, okay.
And they're so young.
Yeah, and I think that if it really is like true that they have been diagnosed with something, that it is going to be something positive. I don't think they don't mean to make fun of somebody, who has to go through this, but I think it attributes more to their openness to talk about it and to be transparent, because it is so common, it really is so common that, and you have to think about like these kids have grown up in the age of school shootings. You know what I mean? How has that caused like depression, anxiety, PTSD?
Anxiety,
yeah. So you have to think it's like a whole different generation that have, grown up unfortunately around, gun violence, and we won't go there today, but they've grown up like just in a totally different generation. So they may be diagnosed, they may be recognized at like a higher rate and stuff like that. But if they really are truly going through that, because I do see people now as a 40-year-old millennial, I'm like, what?
Yeah.
You're on Lexapro too? So it's one of those things, and I obviously, I commend anybody who has like the bravery to talk about their journey, and maybe it's for themselves, so they don't feel ashamed, but maybe it's also like for their friends, or, being proactive, or like putting it out in the open. Obviously we're not comparing like I have this and whatever. It's not a competition.
Right.
But I think that it is the way, they're being bold. They really are being bold, and I think that has a lot to do with like our generation before, like you don't talk about it. My millennial generation is like, we're barely making peace with it, and you're trying to share it, trying to be vocal and be an advocate. Gen Zers are like just out there, you know what I mean? And not that they're proud of it, but they're like, I'm not going to hide this, you know what I mean? And that's the power of their boldness too. It can really bring those gaps together. It can really bring, stuff out of the shadows to where like we don't have to hide it anymore. But that's an interesting observation for sure. So definitely if you are on a college campus, I can see that happening with this generation.
And I was like, well, it's not a competition. It's
it's something serious for sure.
Yeah, it's something serious. I just that's like the only thing I was like, I wonder what you meant by like the behavior thing. That's why I wanted that answer.
And then maybe attention seeking, which is something that is totally different. But I mean, there could be behaviors. I would hope they're not taking advantage.
Yeah, because we also don't. Again, we're already in this day and age where we don't want to like immediately categorize it as that.
No,
like,
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. Go to a doctor, get diagnosed. Like, obviously, that's the right, proper procedure. We don't want to trust our friend or like, oh, yeah, I heard about something or I read a book. No, there's trained professionals, there's clinicians, there's evaluations and stuff like that. And our groups are always like, if you have something diagnosed or a suspected, you know what I mean? Meaning that you've had difficulty, and like some of the signs and symptoms, everybody's always welcome, because we also know the reality is that they may not be able to see a doctor to get a proper diagnosis, right? So this is access to like mental health services, but they're like, yeah, I really do see those symptoms within me and I need support. So it's like diagnosed or suspected diagnosis. We also are open to persons like that, because we understand the lack of mental health services as well.
Yeah, I mean, we live in a community still setting where we believe our neighbor more than anything else, and if our neighbor has the same symptoms, and
Sure, we have it.
yeah, we have it, and I have what medicine are you taking, and I'll take it too,
Yeah.
without it.
Let me ask my doctor.
Yeah.
Like, no.
I mean, I always go across the border, and I'm a pharmacy at home, right? So I was, even though I have insurance and everything, I still believe what they say.
Yeah.
I was happy, but
Yeah.
it's one of those things where I think we need to go ahead and just really go to a professional for this help and not rely on. Because we also tend not to tell the truth all the time to our neighbors. We hold back a little bit. We don't tell them the whole story. We just tell them what we think they need to know.
Exactly.
But going back to like David's point about the one-upping the people, right? You know, we do that when we're like, hey, I was so poor, I didn't have this. And then so when someone says, I was so poor, I didn't have this, right?
Now it's with like mental health issues.
No. I call it Mr. Me Too.
Oh, yeah.
Like
yeah.
Mr. and Miss Me Too. Like, oh, I have this. Oh, me too.
So, but you've seen that.
Oh,
like, that's
absolutely.
okay, yeah. That's what I was
Absolutely.
like, I wonder. Because I was telling the girls, and the girls were just like, sorry, my colleagues, and they were also as like confused as to why they were using it as like, yes, you might have it, but why, like, why are you making it like, hope that I have it more, or like,
Yeah. Like there's levels to it or something
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
So
Because
go ahead.
Because I was people, I was diagnosed with dyslexia and dyscalculia late in life when I was in college. Couldn't pass pre-algebra. But I found ways to compensate through stuff, right? And you still do that, and I still do that now. But I have that compensation for that I don't put on the screens over the blue screen over the screens or whatever it's called. But we learn to compensate sometimes, and we go undiagnosed with things, and we're not realizing what it was or what it is. The good thing is that my nephew, he was diagnosed early on, so. My sister's like, is it hereditary? I was like, I don't know.
That's true.
I don't know.
I've never even wondered about that.
Yeah.
Heard about that.
Yeah. So again, it's one of those things where I'm not gonna say the school system or my parents failed me.
We're not gonna say.
I'll blame somebody. We have to blame some.
We'll see.
But if we didn't talk about it and I hadn't said anything about it, I don't think we would have ever gotten to that point also with other family members.
True.
I'm sorry, David. Now you can go
No,
back.
you're fine. I was gonna ask because you had mentioned in the beginning, NAMI's been around. You guys have been around.
Oh, so the local affiliate
Yes,
we
local.
officially formed last August.
Okay.
Yeah, last August is where we had like our steering committee. Everybody kind of had like a leadership, spot or role, and that was all designated. And then we started offering like our support groups and stuff like that. And we had to go through a whole like application process with NAMI Texas to make sure everything was set, that we were, had an intention for sustainability, like how or who is going to, be in charge of certain things and stuff like that. We had to have trained facilitators. So like every support group facilitator is trained 3 days. So if you want to like lead a peer support group, we were trained 3 days. So like a Friday evening, all Saturday, and then like half of a Sunday. So they're not just like getting somebody, like we're not just getting volunteers, like, just like that.
Right.
We have to be screened for to be a facilitator. So you're getting like highly trained people leading, our support groups and stuff like that. People who've been prepared, people who have been vetted and stuff like that. They're not mental health professionals. You do not have to be a mental health professional to be a facilitator, but they will vet you and give you the appropriate training. So every support group that you want to lead or facilitate, it's at least a 3-day training. So family support, I went through a 3-day training. In Our Own Voice was like a 3-day training. And then we also have a Spanish group. It's Compartiendo Esperanza. I believe it's like once a month on Tuesday at the door. So in McAllen. Okay. So I know we also have like that Spanish option as well, because we know that's really important for like our area and like our people. So I think that we're making good gains in that way as far as, offering a Spanish support group.
So it's been a little bit over a year, I would assume.
Yeah.
Right.
Right over a year.
Is there any like important, lessons that you've learned along the way throughout this year that you guys have
So
maybe seen and then implemented? Or
Yeah, so it was really important for us to go to the Capitol. So May is Mental Health Awareness Month. So in May, they actually had like mental health days on the Capitol. So we got like a good group of us. So it wasn't just NAMI, it was also American Foundation of Suicide Prevention that has a chapter down here. And then it was a couple of our mental health units. So some of the police departments also have a mental health unit. So we had Mission, we had FAR, and we had Edinburgh represent at the Capitol. So it's a rally. Obviously, we get to meet with our legislators. We get to talk to them about Valley issues, connected to mental health. And yeah, Mental Health Days was like super awesome. I can't wait to go next year and take more people, you know what I mean? Because we traveled individually, but like some people went in like buses, like from San Antonio or like Houston and stuff like that. They took big groups. So for me, what I took away is that's great, that we're offering like this support, but how are we changing legislation? How are we advocating at the state level so we can continue to fund 988, so we can get mental health excuses for kids with a mental health, appointment and stuff. There was different bills, that were passed, and there was different bills that we spoke about on what was needed and stuff like that. So I think it's really important for me. I've learned that advocacy in the legislative, realm is super important, and just as important what I'm doing here in the Valley as far as support groups and stuff like that. Because if I'm not taking the voices and issues from my place, from my RGV, from the 956, if I'm not taking or vocalizing those needs, then it stops. It stops once I hit Falfurias.
Right.
So if we're going to the Capitol, if we're making
Right.
a difference, if we're a voice, and we had one of the largest groups there, from the 956, like representing the 956. So to me, what I've learned is that advocacy, meeting with lawmakers, having that conversation, what does the 956 need and stuff like that. I think for me, I've learned that it is super important, you know what I mean? And I'm not the political gal, guys, I'm sorry. But learning how to advocate for certain needs, for mental health issues, for our people here in the 956 is super important. So we're not just making an impact here, we're literally taking it to the state level, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and advocacy is really important. With this year, we've gotten a little bit bigger, and our voice has gotten a little bit louder in supporting certain initiatives. Well, some initiatives are popular, and some of them are not. And again, we're not looking at the political spectrum. We're thinking about what is going to be best for our community.
Exactly.
That's what we're looking at, and what is going to make a healthy community. We've been really advocating for that this year,
it's important.
and it's really important to hear our voice. And the thing is that the Rio Grande Valley is always known for everything, so they highlight a lot. Most obesity, most diabetics, most limb amputations, most XYZ. I mean, so the valley gets used a lot, the 956 gets used a lot, but there isn't always that change around. So we need those change agents and change leaders to be out there in the community advocating. So good for y'all.
Yeah, we want to change those type of statistics, from being negative to something positive. Like I would love to see the RGV has like the highest rate of mental health services, or we have the highest rate of like rural community mental health centers, We would love to have like positive statistics, because that means that our advocacy is working. So yeah, that's definitely like a highlight for me. And like I said, I've never been that political gal. And so, but I love like the experience. Like we got into like the chambers and the offices, like with the lawmakers. We got to have like a rally on the front steps, with like our signs and everything. So it was like really cool.
Yeah.
So I mean, we hope to continue it every year, in May for Mental Health Month, and we'll invite y'all.
Yeah, maybe we can join you next time.
For
We'd love to go
sure,
out.
we would love
Yeah,
that.
we need to go out there more often and do things and rally for stuff. Again, while we do focus on prevention and awareness of diabetes, it affects everyone, regardless of who you are, or color or anything. And we all need to work on this together. And again, we were talking about a little bit about food disorders and stuff, and it's one of those things where we need to highlight and say, hey, maybe there is something wrong, and it goes back to my mental health, and I need to figure it out without having a negative stigma to it and feeling that I can't talk about it. And again, I guess I'll shake my pillbox around.
Like I can do it.
I can do it.
And what is just from your experience, from the support groups and classes that you guys offer, what have you seen that's the most popular? That's
I think Like as far as like discussions in the support group.
Like, what have
or-
you seen more activity with like that? You're like, okay, this draws more people to be open and share more.
I think just like having like a non-judgmental place where you can talk about something that you're going through. I think having that like confidential, safe space, I think it's what like everybody like wants,
Yeah.
people come searching for that. They're like, "Oh man, like I have a free couple of minutes to like talk, and share and where I'm not going to be judged, where my family's not going to call me X, Y, and Z, or they're not going to, like ignore me and stuff like that." It's just like that group process and that relatability, it's that universal like feeling like, I'm not alone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I really think that is, and it's empowering for people because that is, the couple of groups that we have had, that's what keeps people coming back, like I didn't feel this way before, but now I know there's a place for this. Now I know there's a space and like an avenue and stuff like that. And so people will come to our tables too, like when we do tabling, they're like, "My daughter, I need help. Like, I don't know what to
Yeah.
do." And like, while we can't offer a solution, like you were saying, we can help that mom or that dad, like express how they feel. We can offer them that support, you know what I mean? As while we can't change the situation, while we may not get, better mental health care, just yet, we are there to like make space for those feelings, you know what I mean? To make space for like their struggle and stuff like that. Because there is a lot of loss and hurt and pain, you know what I mean? When, certain individuals come in and talk about their experience, how they've been ostracized or how they've just been pushed aside, or
Yeah.
how they're not getting the right treatment or can't get into a psychiatrist for like 6 months.
Yeah.
It's real, like it's real. And like, so we offer them support, like, have you tried this, or like maybe call this person or contact this person and stuff like that. And we're not pushing our agenda, we are there to support them. We're there to journey with them, see what their need is. But I think for them coming to a place where it's safe and not judgmental, I think that's the most important part that I've seen like go on.
Yeah, because we're very proud people. Latinos are very proud people. We don't like to have receive handouts or it could be like anything, but I think there's just a lot of different levels that we can open up to, right? And sometimes maybe it's just the listening, and then the harder stuff, then you're right, needs to be diverted somewhere else for that specialized care.
Yeah.
But sometimes just listening it helps a lot.
Yeah, and we want to be like a resource hub as well. That's why I think, networking and, like crossing disciplines and stuff like that to see how we can help, where we can refer them as well. We do want to be a hub, like, hey, you're going through this. If they have a specific need, well, I know of an agency, I know of a person, I know of a doctor, I know of a psychologist or a social worker that can help you. We also want to be that hub to share those resources with them. We are a part of the Hidalgo County Mental Health Coalition, so we have meetings and we kind of, exchange ideas. There's a mental health resource booklet that we're a part of as well. So I think that in, networking and going to all these tabling events is super important because we're being seen in the community and we're building those partnerships, and that collaboration is super important because then we'll know, our support group members are going through this. I met somebody that has an agency that can help with this. Right. So it's about making those connections for sure.
Yeah.
And do you guys still see that I'd call it, I guess, like a barrier from like the male demographic versus the female demographic?
Yeah, for sure.
We have that as well. Males do not want to get screened for nothing.
Anything, yeah. I've had maybe 2 males come.
Yeah.
And one was coming with their wife. And then the other one, like, just heard about us. I think he came with his sister or something like that. Once they were there, they opened up. So it was very powerful. Yeah. It was very powerful because they did open up and they were able to share, their experiencing, like what they're experiencing, what they need help with and stuff like that. So it was very powerful. But yeah, we see a lot less like percent of males come in for support for sure. So even at like our tabling events, like they won't come to our table.
They run away from us.
They run away from us too.
Like,
Don't feel bad. Yeah.
They're like, I'm fine.
Yeah. Or it's like, I guess from our perspective, since we deal in the diabetes sector, it's like, well, ni modo, I still have to work and I still have to, maybe that's the same, sentiment that they carry with mental health. Like, what if I do have it?
Yeah,
I still
you
got
keep
work.
going. Yeah, you still got to do
just
live. You
hard.
still
It's
have
hard to-
responsibilities. Like, why am I going to stop and pause for this? Like,
But
there's
if
no
you
reason.
don't I guess my argument, and it could go for both, it would be like, if you don't take care of yourself, or right now, in what position are you going to be to take care of your family?
Exactly.
Or those dependent on you in the future?
Exactly.
So
Well, because it comes when sociology we learned. This was back when I was doing my degree, and it's probably still the same thing. It's when you're dealing with mental illness a lot of times, or you're looking for the coping mechanism
Yep.
of something, right? And it's not necessarily mental illness, but the struggles of everyday life. The number one coping method is drinking. And we love to drink, and then we become,
It's huge.
we either break down crying, we become the crier, the lover, the fighter, the withdrawal. We become, there's different people we become, right?
For sure, yeah.
And I think those are one of the things that we but it's funny, it's true, it happens.
true.
Yeah,
I always tell
it
people,
is.
oh, I become a different person when I'm drinking, but that's the go-to thing. And instead of asking for help and avoiding having to get there, as the breadwinner of the family, or the struggles that you have and the pressures, and I look at it in different things, because I've worked with adults and I've worked with kids before, and seeing kids going through their high school years, they have tons of pressure to fit a mold. I have to be in the top 10 or whatever. I have to be in the everything.
You have to pass this test.
Exactly, and I have to be in the in click, and I have to have my Starbucks in the morning, and I have to have my stuff. You know, the pressures that are being put on that child. Now look at it on the adult as well, right? Having to fit that mold too, right? We were out the other day at lunch with some interns, and we were comparing wallets. We were all the Coach gang and stuff, and then all this kind of stuff, right?
I get mine on Sheen.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So again, it's one of those things where we all have to fit a certain clique,
Certain
right?
mold,
So and then I'm the bully and stuff, so I bully everybody. But we try to fit that mold because that's what we think the expectation is from everybody else that's looking at us, and in reality, we're just breaking apart, trying to make ends meet and trying to fit the, hey, look at me, I have it too.
Yeah, we're broke, we're unhappy, we're using alcohol to cope, and nobody talks about that
Nobody talks
because
about it.
we're all in the same position.
Yeah. So it's one of those things where we really need to focus on other avenues of getting that
For sure.
healing
Healing.
without having to go through that. Because the alcohol's going to mess up your system too, right?
Exactly.
It's going to mess up your entire system.
Physical, mental, emotional, And what are we teaching our young boys? Hey, when mom and dad fight, or when we don't have money for the bills, I see dad go outside and drink,
Right.
and he gets rowdy, or he gets crying, or he gets upset,
Emotional.
Or he gets, exactly.
Yeah.
So to them, is this a positive coping mechanism? What are we teaching our young boys and or girls? And it's they're living out what they're seeing, And if there's no positive coping mechanisms, that's super important too, for sure.
Yeah, and we were talking outside before we got started over here about some of the work you're doing also with domestic violence, sexual assault, and that kind of stuff, right? So it's key. It's important, really cool that you just said that, because a friend of mine recently got separated from or divorced from his spouse, and one of the problems was that he would go out drinking, and would he come home really rowdy, and he said, my wife couldn't put up with it anymore, so we got divorced. He goes, but Moses, that's what I saw all my life. I thought that was normal.
Yeah.
And it's not normal. People don't grow up that way. It's not normal.
No,
So
same thing with women. I've heard women say, I didn't think it was a big deal because that's all I saw.
Yeah.
I didn't know I was in an abusive relationship. I didn't know I was experiencing domestic violence because that's what I saw my older sister go through, or my mom, my grandma. You know what I mean? It's just yeah, and so in that respect, it's the Marianismo, right? So it's the opposite of machista. The Marianismo is where the woman is self-sacrificing.
Oh,
Everybody
wow.
comes before
I didn't
the
even know
woman.
that.
Yes, so everybody comes before the woman, and you serve your spouse, your children, and your household before yourself. So it's self-sacrifice.
Wow.
Marianismo. So yeah, back to my social work days. We learned about machismo, but Marianismo, a lot of people don't realize that. So they're self-sacrificing themselves for their family. So I just think this is normal. If it keeps my family together, if he pays the bills, then I'm good. You know what I mean? And definitely affecting, mental illness for, women, victims of domestic violence too. So yeah, it's huge.
it is. Yeah. It's really, really huge. It's really saddening. Very saddening.
Wow. Well, so much information. I don't know if we've missed anything.
I don't know. We must say that. I think it's
I don't
really
know
good
if there's
conversation.
anything-
Yeah,
yeah.
I love it. I
Me
love
too.
it. I mean, I think it's you know, we can never finish. We can never talk enough about mental health and being taking care of ourselves and our life in general and our loved ones. You know, it's one of the things that we always push out. You know, when we talk about diabetes and we talk again about the male population that needs to get screened more for everything. Don't put it. And the biggest thing and I tell these guys these stories is. You all work and you have great insurance, and you don't go to the doctor and you don't use it, and then you retire, and guess what? You have cancer, you have diabetes, you have XYZ, and now you have no good insurance,
Yeah.
and so take advantage of your insurance. Go get all these screenings,
Yes.
and live a happier life so you can have a great, enjoy your grandkids,
Yeah,
enjoy
exactly.
your kids,
Your
enjoy
golden
retire-
years, for sure, yeah.
for sure.
I've seen a lot of people struggle, after they retire, and I guess our bodies are so used to being in that work
Well,
mode.
you even hear the stories about them just passing away.
Yeah.
They retire and
Dead.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think there's a thing to be said because our parents didn't know what a vacation was.
No.
They were always in survival mode.
Always.
They were working 24/7.
People that work the fields,
Yeah.
if you're a migrant and stuff like that. Yeah.
And I don't think they knew how to retire and enjoy life. And when they retired, that's the same thing that happened. My dad was really, really good, and we made him retire because they're like, yeah, stop working. Well, his mental decline slowly started after he retired, and I think it had to be with he didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
And
Enjoyment.
yeah, it was crazy, really crazy.
So my dad's the opposite. Like, they retired and he's like outside. And he's like, I'm not going to die in a chair watching
Yeah.
the news. He's like, I'd rather die out there. I'm like, Dad, please, that's so morbid. But I'm like a realist. So I'm like, okay, Dad, you're actually, that's right. If that's all you want to go out, then I'll be. And he's diabetic too,
Yeah.
I shared with you. And so he's a tough cookie for sure. I'm like, what am I going to do? He's 71.
Yeah.
Let him do what he wants to
him
do.
to do.
Let him do what he
Let him
wants
be.
to do. I said, if he's been a diabetic for 30, 40 years and he's still able to push a lawnmower, thank God.
Yeah.
Thank God. Thank God he's not missing a limb. Thank God, he doesn't have, all these other complications and stuff like that. So, like, I try to celebrate. My mom's like, pero, I'm like, Mom, just let it go. Just let it be.
But yeah, I think that's one of the things we have to power through, right? And,
For sure.
and understand our limits, right? But there comes to a point where you yourself say, you know what, I can't. My mind says I can, but my body says I can. At that point, then we'll worry about it, right? But if you have to, if you can and you have the ability, push through, man. Push through.
Awesome. On that note, as we get closer to wrapping up here, there is one question that we ask all our guests that come onto our podcast before they leave, and that question is, what does success look like to you? So it can be as broad or as simple as you want it to be.
Success means time. For me, it's not about, like, chasing a paycheck or chasing a position or title. For me, it's the expendability of my time. I get to choose how much time I spend. I get to choose to, like, spend it with my son, spend it with my husband, take a trip. For me, success is a paycheck is not everything. A paycheck is really not. Success, I believe, is time. You get to do what you really love, or you get to do what you really want with those people that you love and cherish. Being able to take my mom to an appointment, that time is invaluable to me. You know what I mean? And I'm blessed that I have a good job that gives me time off, to do that. And for me, time is success. I can chase my dreams and stuff like that. I mean, even if I get paid zero, but time, I have the time
Right,
to like give back to people, and not just that, spend it with my kiddo and my husband. Those are the two greatest things of my life. And for me, like, I have time to, like, go to church, and serve the community and stuff like that. And so that's what success is to me. I get to spend the time how I choose to and what I love to do. So, yeah.
Cool. Awesome.
Awesome. Amazing.
Awesome. Great answer. So on that note, if there's anything you want to plug, where can people find you guys? Social media, anything like that? Anything that you guys might have coming up as well?
Sure. So
Before we close
if
out.
you look for us on Facebook, it is NAMI South Texas RGV, and it's the same tag on Instagram as well. NAMI South Texas RGV. Any upcoming events, we have our support group, September 29th from 1 to 3. That is our NAMI family support group. September 29th from 1 to 3, and that's at the Crossroads Senior Center off of Fern in McAllen. So anybody's invited. You don't have to register. We have an event on, like posted on Facebook. You can click like going or whatever. But just if you want to find out, what we're about, or if you have questions about mental health support, we're here. We're here for the community. And yeah, NAMI South Texas RGV. Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, on that note, we thank you so much for joining us today on this episode of Unidos Unplugged. We hope you enjoyed it, and we hope to see you in the next one. Thank you.